This week's episode of Aussie Tech Heads is brought to you by Start New Company. Register your company immediately today with ASIC. ABN, TFN, GST registration is also available directly from the portal. Also set up your family trust and self-managed superannuation fund and more. All at startnewcompany.com.au. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/startnewco and keep an eye out for our regular specials. Start your new company now within 10 minutes of lodgement. All legal company documentation provided after registration. startnewcompany.com.au. And also brought to you by athwebhosting.com.au. All our servers are operating on SSD drives, immediate activation, SSL certificates, Aussie support, domain registration, and more. Easy install WordPress, Joomla, Drupal, and 300 other one-click installations. Generous space and bandwidth, auto backups, WordPress help and maintenance plans are also available on Contact. If your webpage is important for your business or your life, contact us today. Aussie support, secure services, athwebhosting.com.au. And now for the show.
Welcome to episode 677 of the Aussie Tech Heads, recorded on the 14th of May 2020. I'm your host, Jason Oakley. This is my co-host, Will Tompkinson. Hey, Will.
Hey, mate. How goes it?
Pretty good.
You know what I just realised about that intro? It's actually the first time I've had both my headphones on for the intro, and I just realised it's actually in stereo.
Ah!
And I mixed the thing.
Who's that guy doing the voiceover? I don't even recognise it.
I don't know.
He doesn't know how to pronounce Drew Powell correctly.
Yeah, this is what happens when you
just can't get the talent these days.
What's that? What is it? Fiverr.com? I think it was one of those guys.
Oh yeah.
So that's what happens when you pay $5. You get that sort of quality. You got to pay.
I had an account on there. Nobody ever wanted me to do anything though. So
I tell you what is becoming quite popular is Cameo.
Yeah. Mark Shepard's on there.
Yeah. Oh, lots of people on there, but. Like, I love Home Free, Archipella group. I'm a big fan of theirs, and they're all on there. And it's $50, and they'll do, like, up to a 1 minute thing. So, yeah, pretty cool for
That's nice. Mark is charging $100, and I would like to get it for my daughter, but $100 US is like $1 million Australian these days because our dollar is so crap.
Well, they're charging $50.
I want to buy a Spectrum computer from the UK, which is the only place you can get it. They're like, oh, it's only £90. And I'm like, yeah, that's like $180 plus $150 postage.
Plus GST. Because you've got to pay GST everything else. No, import duty is only if it's over $1,000.
Oh, eBay automatically puts import duty on the bottom of everything, so I don't know.
Wouldn't be anything, though. They might put it on there. They'd calculate it, but I don't think you'd pay because I think you only pay it if it's over $1,000.
Oh, okay.
They probably calculate it, but you
still going to be like $400 for a computer, though.
Or is it like $500? I know Jerry Norman cracked it, and now they dropped it.
No, not that. $400 if you get the price of the Spectrum plus postage.
Well, postage is the thing. Like, postage is ridiculous now.
It's $160 to post it here and $160 to buy.
Well, I got a friend who's, I say a friend, a guy I know is in the Isle of Man.
Yep.
And to send something from the UK to the Isle of Man, like he sent I can't remember what it was. It's like a food package thing, had like, I don't know, it was probably a shoebox size. To send it from the UK to the Isle of Man cost him $65.
Jeez.
He sent them back like a big moving box full of stuff. It was a YouTube, one of those YouTube Secret Santa dealies. And he sent it from the Isle of Man to the UK, and it cost like $12. So somebody's making some money somewhere.
I ordered some stuff from the UK on the 10th of March.
Yeah.
It's not here yet, is it?
No, it won't be. It's got to sit in customs for 30 days. before it.
That makes sure there's no virus on it.
Yeah, something like that. It's
Or any other excuse they can have for delaying it.
pretty much. They don't actually use the real excuses. We're just useless.
Yep.
But see, that's the thing. Like at work, we use a program called Ship It, which calculates couriers and best rates and all that sort of stuff. And Fastways is often cheaper by a few dollars than Couriers Please. The thing is, Couriers Please will pick it up today and drop it to the other side of the state tomorrow.
Yep.
Fastways will pick it up at some point in the next 5 days, and then across town is promised delivery 5 days later. So it could take 10 days to ship something across town.
Drop it off on the way home, dude.
Like $2 cheaper than Couriers Please. It'll do it the same day.
Yeah.
It's like, seriously?
How do you survive? How does your company survive?
But then you get Toll, who does exactly the same thing for $460. And everyone else is like $11. And you're like, yes, I'm going to choose that as an option. Just let me choose that one. There we go. $460, thanks.
Toll, whose computers got hacked this week and all the records released on the internet.
Was that Toll? I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember who it was. I couldn't find that story again either.
Yeah, you can know the keywords to look for. I don't have it as my story.
Yeah, I couldn't. I knew that it was. I vaguely remember hearing about it, but I'm like, who was that?
Every week there's somebody big that's.
I just
all
love
their stuff's
I
gone.
just love the headline. Hacked again. Like, really? Can we need to do it
It's
again?
a common thing. Everybody's details about everything is all over the internet. There's nothing
Well,
private.
I think it's kind of hack begets hack, because they hack somebody, they get their details, and then they've got details to all the other sites that they use. They've got their information, so they can get into there. So once the ball starts rolling, it just progresses without any effort, you know.
And people who are whacking their stuff up on Amazon buckets and don't secure it afterwards and go, "It's all right, we just put it on the server."
Yeah.
You know that's searchable by anyone.
Yeah,
They downloaded our database of customers.
I used to love it when that was a thing you could do. Now the people are waking up to that. You get something like a fitment guide from a company that's for like batteries that fit cars, and what cars and makes and models and what batteries and stuff.
Yeah.
And even 5 years ago, you could go to their website, right-click it, save database, done, grab it, and I've got a copy of it now. But now it doesn't work like that, unfortunately. Now I've got to do it the hard way.
How's
now.
things for you doing anyway?
Um,
I got a jacket this week.
we're plodding along, you know. Got my solar installed yesterday.
Whoa, how'd that go?
Got my 10 kilowatts up. So, actually lucky. I was looking at the old panels that they took down. I was looking at them this morning, and one of them's actually melted the junction box and the panels fire damage. So, that lightning strike we had last year, that
Your panel.
must have done more damage than what I initially thought it did. So,
And now you're completely off grid.
no, because the 10 kilowatt system was grid tied, but I found a provider that's paying 18 cents feeding.
Nice.
So I did a quick calculation today. Well, since I've had the solar, we had cloud yesterday and rain today. So I haven't been able to work out what the system's doing yet.
It doesn't rain up there. Don't trick me with that rubbish.
But working on 18 cents feed-in and 24 cents normal tariff,
Yep.
I should have made about $5 today. I made $5 today even with the cloudy weather. So
That's all right.
it's going to be interesting to see how it pans out. But yeah, my 18 cent, there's a 10-day cool-off period, and that finishes Sunday. So by Monday, I should be on the new 18 cent tariff, which is perfect timing because, yeah, I gives a couple of days to work the bugs out in this system first, and
Yep.
it's all monitored. I can monitor it all remotely with my phone,
And then summer,
whatever.
you're going to be cheering.
oh yeah, for sure, it's going to be great. So,
Striker should be getting NBN tomorrow, I think it is.
yeah,
Fiber to the curb.
yeah.
Womp womp.
Fiber to the curb's fine. Like,
It's okay.
yeah, you still can easily get 4100 out of fiber to the curb. Yeah, I used to get it.
And one of my friends also up in Queensland has just got NBN from our favourite Aussie broadband. And he's like, When they say they're giving you 140, they give you 140.
Yep.
Check this out, everyone. And then his friend over in some other country
Yeah.
posted theirs at like 500 down or something.
Yeah,
He's
I
like,
was like-
yeah, and you can shut up.
Yeah. It's funny, like you can who was it? Someone the other day. Yeah, they didn't say they were staying on because obviously you can still fly for business trips and stuff, fly overseas and whatever, and he had to go over to, I think he went over to it was a big I can't remember if it was like Tesla or IBM. It was a big industrial headquarters he went to do his job, and he was on their guest Wi-Fi.
Yep.
And it was like 1 gigabit up and down. And that's like their open, no password, free to anybody
That
guest
can't
Wi-Fi.
be possible, because then Australia should surely be able to have that if that was a real thing. I think you must have been having a dream, Mr. T.
And that was on, yeah. And he's like, he's like, can I just download like the entire internet while I'm here?
Might as well.
So it probably was. It would be on wireless. It would be less sustained. Like it would burst at that. But once you started using it, it would drop down. But still, I mean, realistically,
It's not going to drop down much.
you're restricted to your hard drive write speed at that point, aren't you? So
As long as you got gigabit network at home.
yeah. Well, I do, but I really very, very rarely use the bandwidth on it. Like, even the only time I probably would use it is when I'm copying, like after this show, I'll edit the video and whatever, and I'll move the local recorded file up to the NAS.
Yeah.
That would be the only time I would use it. The rest of the time, you sit there and watch the traffic monitor and it's ticking over at like 1 and 2%. Like, it just doesn't work the rest of the time, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Good to
but-
have, though.
yeah. But I mean, I don't use my 5G Wi-Fi either. Like, it's too flaky. You're always having dropouts and always having issues with it, and you don't get constant speed. You get burst speed, and then it slows down. So I just use the standard 2.4 and never have a problem with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but anyway, I guess we got a few shows tonight.
Few shows to do tonight. This is the first one. Let's get started. It's going to be a late one. Then we don't have to do shows for the rest of the year. That's a good plan.
We'll just do like 20
Holiday.
tonight and be done with it. Yeah. Nothing else is going to change too much in the tech industry in the next 6 months. So,
Speaking of NBN, we have some bad news, everybody. Australian fixed broadband users that are on networks capable of 25 megabits per second or quicker and not connected to the NBN will soon need to pay an extra $7.10 monthly charge to subsidise those connecting to NBN's loss-making fixed wireless and satellite technologies. The Regional Broadband Scheme, also known as the Broadband Tax, was recommended to be passed by Senate Environment and Communications Legislation Committee back in September 2017 and again in February after the bills had previously lapsed. Those bills, Telecommunications Regional Broadband Scheme, Charge Bill 2019 and Telecommunications Legislation Amendment Competition and Consumer Bill 2019, also put statutory infrastructure provider SIP obligations on NBN to ensure it's the infrastructure provider of last resort. Those proposed SIP obligations will ensure that all people in Australia are able to order a high-speed broadband service regardless of where they live, and that NBN becomes a default SIP as the network is rolled out.
yeah.
RBS will provide equitable and transparent funding for the loss-making NBN fixed wireless and satellite networks in region Australia, the government said previously in January 2018. The SIP obligations and the RBS form an integrated package. One cannot proceed without the other. The broadband tax is set to commence in July and charge will be indexed yearly. Much of the debate surrounding the RBS had hinged on whether it should include mobile and fixed wireless broadband users, such as Optus 5G home product, with the committee stating in February that a later review should look into it. In the event of a material change to the NBN uptakes rates, the committee agrees that the statutory review could consider expanding the levy base to include mobile services. Speaking at a hearing earlier this month, representatives of the Department of Communications had said fixed line services were not directly substitutable for 5G services, and thus NBN would not lose significant number of users to 5G. Our view is, and our view still remains, that mobile and fixed line are complementary services. Department of Communications Assistant Secretary of Broadband Information Andrew Madsen said at the time.
Yeah, because they're
So-
not giving you a free 4G backup with your NBNs. You know.
Hmm.
Yeah, they're completely separate services. I don't know. They spooked this whole anybody can have it, but they can't. My sister can't get NBN.
No.
She's lucky. Like her satellite connection is that bad. She's lucky if she can even get. I should turn my audio up. I just realised for some reason my mic's doing that thing again where it decides to be quiet for no apparent reason.
What?
I don't know what's going on.
You'll have to speak up. I'm wearing a towel.
But yeah, my sister's like, as I said, she's flat out if she can get the internet good enough to use the phone.
Yeah,
Like,
that's pretty bad.
yeah, even the phone is crackly and poppy and like, you know, to watch when we go there, I go there and help her out and whatever, and I want to watch a YouTube video. I have to watch it in usually 240. On a good day, you can watch it in 360.
Yep.
But generally 240 if you're allowed to buffer for 30 seconds before you watch it, or 144 if you want it to actually work without buffering.
I was going to say, if you want to watch something, you start buffering it in the morning and then check it in the afternoon. And
Yeah, but the problem is that doesn't work because most services only buffer like a minute ahead and then they
Yeah.
stop. So you can't even do that anymore. You used to be able to do that. You used to be able to pre-buffer videos all the way through. I don't know if it's a browser thing or if the host just
limit it.
limit the buffer length now for bandwidth reasons, or
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, you can't pre-buffer anymore, which is really annoying, especially on sites like 10play that are completely useless and don't have enough bandwidth.
Yeah.
And you have to stop it every 5 minutes and buffer it for 30 seconds to watch the next 5 minutes. Like, it's just
Bit ridiculous, that.
so. I don't mind paying this levy if it does what it says it's going to do.
Yeah.
But that's a very big if.
Shouldn't have to pay extra, though. It's supposed to be nearly profitable by now, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, it's supposed to be fully 100% rolled out by 5 years ago.
And they are starting to borrow money from private enterprise now. So,
Yeah, what could possibly go wrong with that?
right?
That never
So
ends
related
badly.
to that, 11 years ago, the Rudd federal Labor government announced the intention to build a national broadband network delivering super-fast broadband to Australia homes and workplaces, 93% via fibre to the premises and 7% via fixed wireless satellite. Several years later, the Liberal Party came into power and Abbott and Turnbull governments promised that the NBN would be built faster and cheaper with multi-technology mix, including fibre to the premises, fibre to the curb, HFC, fibre to the node, fibre to the basement, fixed wireless and satellite. CEO of NBN now says the NBN is on track for completion in 6 weeks at the end of Q2 2020. NBN's completion target is 11.5 million residences ready to connect, and about 300,000 of those were not done by the end of Q1 2020. Sydney Train says it's achieved on-time running when at least 92% of peak services arrive within 5 minutes of when they're supposed to. In a similar way, NBN will count their initial rollout as complete mid-year, even though 100,000 residences will have been put in the too hard basket and left to try and connect them again at a later date. Of the residences that can connect to NBN, about 63% have done so. This is because of various reasons. Example, the people who live in the other 37% are still connected to ADSL, and the copper lines in that area haven't been cut off yet, or they can't afford to connect, or they only use their mobile phone for the internet. NBN's Chief Financial Officer, Philip Knox, said that the cost per premises of the rollout was higher than projected in the corporate plan because of more work required at some locations than expected. Regardless of whether you're in the group of people who wish for the full fibre approach or think the multi-technology mix has been a good enough solution, no one can deny that the NBN is better than the decaying old Telstra ADSL copper network. Don't forget that if the NBN project hadn't started and had been left to private sector to do what it wanted, the best Australia could have hoped for is super fast broadband for those lucky enough to live in richer areas of our big cities, like the TPG fibre to the basement rollout.
Nah, I don't buy it.
No?
If it had been left to privatise, it would have become commercial privatisation. So somebody like Google, who it's in their best interests, would
What
have.
people are saying, Google, just buy up Australia's NBN and do it properly.
Yeah, well, there's that. But yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's only the government's the only person who thinks that they've actually done something constructive. You know, like nobody else. What they've done basically, they're complaining about how the copper network for Telstra's ADSL would have decayed, but like, what is it, 40% or something of the NBN is still using the copper network that Telstra put in place.
Yep. And
So
still will.
it's
Even
like,
Telstra said, this is crap, don't use it.
yeah,
They're like, great, we'll use it. Can we buy it cheap? Yes,
Yeah.
you can buy it cheap. We don't want the damn thing. Good luck with that.
yeah, that's it. Like, it's just dumb.
And there's still so many people on. If it rains, the internet don't work no more for a couple of days.
Yeah, I know lots of people that still have that problem.
Yep.
And I mean, it's not. I'm talking like out this way. Once I sort of head west from here, it gets very, very rural. And I know entire towns that don't have phone or internet when it rains, or there's Telstra's buried a trunk line 6 inches under a farmer's field, and some apprentices ploughing the field this year, and they dig the trunk line up.
Yep.
Like, you know, there's just so many stupid things happening still that just there shouldn't be a thing anymore. You know, I don't understand the whole 5G rollout. It's a load of crap. We don't need it. We don't have an infrastructure for it anyway. None of the backbones can handle it. Just fix the infrastructure we've got first to make that work, and then worry about 5G in 10 years' time when we've caught up.
Yeah, one of my techie friends was saying 5G at the most anyway is just going to do better multiplexing of video streaming
Yeah.
if everyone's watching the same thing. Other than that, it's no faster than anything else.
You're not going to notice it because you're still speed restricted by the physical infrastructure.
Yeah, and most stuff is still 3G anyway.
Well,
So-
yeah, I mean, realistically, you don't notice a lot of difference between 3G and 4G, except you get better 3G signal than you get 4G signal, and it's going to be worse with 5G.
Yeah, so
I-
what's
it-
the point?
It's just pure.
I mean, I still get, my telco, I won't say who they are, for my cellular connection ringing up going, hey, do you want a 5G phone? Why do I want that? When is 5G coming to my town? Maybe 5-10 years.
Yeah.
So
So why would I want a phone?
what's the point?
Yeah. Well, I
Because
mean,
you get a new phone. Well, that's good, but it's exactly the same as my current one and doesn't do anything else funkier.
no, this is it. Like,
All the phones have reached a peak. There's nothing exciting about any new phone that's coming out,
no.
except for maybe Huawei or what's
I
the
mean, but you still got the same problem. Like, regardless of whether the phone's 5G, I mean, there is new phones coming out that are supporting whatever, but it's pointless because at some point the internet's going to hit a physical connection or a satellite link, or it's going to hit the undersea cable, and as soon as it does that, you're going to lose your speed. I mean, if I'm standing on that side of the cell tower and a friend standing on this side of the cell tower, and we decide to send each other a video, yeah, okay, maybe that'll be quicker. But that's about it. That's pretty much it. The rest of it,
it ain't gonna fix all your problems.
it's going to cause more
And
problems.
5G goes less distance anyway, doesn't it?
Oh,
Since it's a high
yeah,
frequency.
like a tenth
So you
of
need
the
more towers.
5G goes like 300 meters, and that's
You
at
need a lot of towers.
that's
to do
at the level that we're using it here, which is like 20 times the maximum safety level the other countries are allowing.
So,
So
get
there's
back
that.
to me when there's a good thing about 5G.
Yeah, I'm glad I don't live in the cities. All I can say. I mean, I don't have a problem with 5G in small doses. Like routers, for example, are 5G, but they're very low power. They're only whatever they are, 20, 25 milliamps or something. Like, they're very low power consumption. But I just don't particularly want a massive big 5G tower. Regardless of whether or not you think the medical side of it's an issue, just the interference that much radio wave frequency is going to cause with TV signals and with radio waves and with other signals that you've got, with messing up people's Wi-Fi, and it's going to cause all sorts of headache. Regardless of whether or not you think that it's a medical issue, that's an entire separate thing again. Just from a pure functional standpoint, it's going to cause far more problems than it solves.
Well, they're going to push forward whether you want to or not.
There's a lot of people in a lot of countries who are tearing the towers down faster than they can put them up.
Burning them down.
Yeah, burning them down, pulling them down, driving tanks into them. Various different ways of destroying
Whatever
them.
works.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, so
Any stories for you?
I got lots. I just got to figure out which way to go. All right, so what I'll do
But,
first, I've got a story about hard drive reliability, but I just want to quickly add to that story first. So this story mentions HGST, and
Yep.
I wasn't aware of HGST as a company, but it stands for Hitachi Global Storage Technology. So basically what
when
it
was
is...
the last time you heard the name Hitachi?
Well, they still make Hitachi hard drives.
Yeah, but you just
but
don't
you just
hear
don't
it that
hear it.
much.
Most of your commercial stuff is still either Hitachi or IBM, but it
I
turns
mean,
out...
they make these amazing things called Hitachi Wanda here, but we won't go into that.
So Hitachi, IBM, Western Digital, and there's another one somewhere that I found before and I can't find now. But they are all the same company in terms of hard drives. When, if Western Digital releases a hard drive, IBM and Hitachi have the same lineup, which explains why Western Digitals have become a very reliable drive, because I remember in the mid to late 90s, you wouldn't touch a Western Digital as far as you could throw it.
Didn't they have they took turns, like Connor was crap for a while, then Seagate was crap for a while, and you remember Maxtor?
Maxtor. Well, Maxtors were just a problem. There was never a time where they weren't an issue. The problem with Maxtor was they were a fast drive. They were very, very quick. They were completely unreliable, but they were very, very quick. But yeah, so there was a point there in the mid to late 90s, early 2000s where, every year you'd have to change which particular hard drive you're using because reliability would change. But Western Digital, I use Western Digitals. My NAS has got it. My computers run it. Not SSDs, but spinning disks. And I've got 2 terabyte spinning disks that are 8 and 9 years old, and they're still perfect. So I don't have a problem with them. But so basically, this is which company makes the most reliable hard drives. So Google, I know, has done this a couple of times, but this time I found a test by Backblaze, who does, or if you don't know who Backblaze is, they're basically an online backup utility. I actually used them for years before I got my NAS. I finally ditched them now that I've got the NAS, but I used them for a long time. And they were great. The backup infrastructure and everything's amazing, really fast. But obviously they use a lot of hard drives. So basically this includes the HGST, so the Western Digitals, or IBM's, we'll call them Western Digital effectively because that's most likely what they are. The Seagates and Toshibas. So they've got 130,000 drives, about 11 million drive days between them. They've had 335 drive failures at 1% failure rate. Some of the, at first glance you look at some of them like the, the Seagate drive here where they've had 1.4% failures. They've had 29 failures. Well, this one where they've had 126 failures. But the thing is, they've had 126 failures, but they've got 3.3 million drive days between 37,000 drives. So that's why their failure number's higher. But you look at some of these, and there's some definite reliability issues with some of them. Like this one here, they've only got 2,000. They got 2,000 drives. They got 260,000. They got four failed drives, and they've only got 0.5% failure rate, but they've got a very low amount, and they're only a 4 gig drive. So you'd be expecting by now the 10s and 12s and 16 gig drives to be causing the problem, which is true. They're only in this case they're too new to assess, but traditionally you'd always steer away from big drives because the big drives are inherently less reliable than older technology. But it looks like that Western Digital and Seagate are on the ball there with their, especially you look at the Western Digital one here, where they've got nearly 1 million drive days on 10,000 drives, and there's 0.5% failure rate. Like it's less than their overall average, and that's for a 12 terabyte hard drive.
That's pretty good.
So it's 12 terabyte. That's right. Yeah, the HU 7212, yeah, 12 terabyte drive. So it's really interesting statistics that how reliable drives come. I mean, I remember seeing this. Well, even they've said that it's lower than it was in 2000. You know, they started tracking in 2013, and it's been the lowest since they've started tracking it. It's down 1.5% over last year. So it's amazing how spinning discs are becoming more and more reliable, even though the size is increasing. That goes against traditional.
What you would expect,
yeah, it goes against the traditional way drives work. Traditionally, you wouldn't touch a new drive. Like I remember when we went from 850 meg to 1 gig drives.
Yep.
Nobody touched a 1 gig drive for 12 months.
Yeah.
Like you just wouldn't, because you just know that it was going to fail. Only some of the businesses and enterprises who had multiple backups would go that way. But the thing is, they would drive the reliability because they'd send the drives back, the drives be investigated, figure out why they died, and they'd improve that thing. So
they can be the guinea pigs.
yeah, basically. I mean, I've got a 50 meg quantum drive at Dad's place that still runs as good as the day it was made.
Wow.
And that would have to be, well, I had it since mid-90s, like
Yep.
95, 96, I got it, and it was secondhand when I got it. So
I forgot to say quantum. And what about Bigfoot?
yeah, the Bigfoot, the Seagate. Was it Seagate? The Bigfoot drives? Yeah.
Yeah.
Those things used to just like make your entire computer just walk across the table like they just twin
But
platter.
it was worth it.
Twin platter 5.5 inch platters. Like yeah, that was scary. They did, like the lights in the house would dim when they started to spin up.
See what
Although
this
they were-
next generation's missing out on with their
They weren't
flash
as
memory hard drives.
they weren't as scary as the was it MF.
Yeah,
MFM
that was
hard
my
drives?
first drive.
They were massive, 5.5 inch, like this deep, like 10 or 12 platter, 2 meg
My
hard
first one
drives.
was a 128 meg MFM drive.
Oh, that was
and
huge.
The guys I worked with wouldn't believe me. They made a drive MFM in 128 meg until I brought my computer in to show them.
That's massive. Mine was a 20 meg in my XT.
Yeah.
I mean, they were effectively a SCSI hard drive, so they're actually relatively fast. They were just massively clunky, and I'm just trying to find if I can find a spin up sound effect, because
You kids in your SSDs these days, back in my day, you could hear the hard drive from the other side of the house.
Welcome to the video on this.
yeah, pretty much it was. You really could, and if you couldn't hear the video, you could hear the entire computer vibrating from the.
And some of the CD-ROM drives would do that too.
Oh yeah, I had.
Hey everybody.
Don't talk, just play the thing. I don't care what you think. I just want to hear the drive spinning up.
Sequence start.
Oh, here we go. All right. He's probably going to say something else, most likely. Wait for it. Wait for it. There we go. Now the harmonics are starting to kick in. And head seek. Come on, head seek. Get those heads. Come on. Wow, this is a real slow drive, this one. This is a Fujitsu 22.9 meg.
Wow.
Come on, where's those heads? Why aren't they seeking? They should be seeking by now. Or is this drive dead? I probably picked a dead drive. Yeah, that's annoying. But yeah, you get that, and then you get the whole head smacking against the stops, and there wasn't very much in the way of subtlety those days.
No.
It wasn't a thing.
I mean, even about 6 years ago, when I was working in the office and we had hard drives, and you wouldn't know if the hard drive was good or not. So I plug it in, and the co-workers would tell me, "Come and check out this hard drive and tell me if it's good or not." Plug it in, turn it on, and I'd listen to it.
Yeah.
That hard drive's dead. You might as well throw it out. They're like, how do you do that? I said, you have a listen.
Yeah.
It can't seek properly. It's just going with the heads, not even picking up anything or moving hardly. No, I can't hear that.
Like that.
Yeah. If you got a few of them together, you could probably make a tune out of that.
Oh, there we go. Smack, smack. Just to seek the heads, just to make sure they're good.
Yeah.
And they used to have park sequences and...
Yeah, I had a utility for DOS that you could park your hard drive head, especially if you're going to pick it up and take it over to your friend's place or something. You want to park their heads.
Yeah, well,
before you
see,
go.
that's it. Because see how they've stopped, for those who are watching the video, you can see how the heads have stopped on the outer edge of the platter.
Yeah.
That's bad. It's two things. One is it's put the heads at full extension, so they're their most vibrating point, and that's where the data's stored on the disk. So if you now pick that drive up and walk away with it and pick up the computer, they'll clatter backwards and forwards against the platters and destroy the heads and destroy the platters. If you look back at the start of this video, you can see where the heads are sitting right on the inside, there. So that's where the heads would pull back and park. Well, depending on this drive, a lot of them would pull back and park in there. It's like a record. It's got like a dead zone in the center.
Yep.
Some of them used to pull back across and fold back across this arm here and park across there. So they're completely off the platters altogether.
Probably a
But
better idea.
yeah, no, there was all sorts. You used to be able to do low level formats too.
Yep.
You could really destroy a hard drive doing that.
Yeah, you have to put a drill through it.
Well, no, see, this is the thing. Most people don't realise that hard drives are glass now. They're glass platters. So they're actually really easy to destroy. You pretty much just throw them on the ground and it shatters the platters.
Smash it.
Yeah, there's not much to them in terms of shock resistance anymore.
Be very careful with your computer.
Hello, everyone. I've done a
Stop
new.
talking.
Again.
But yeah, it's there's this one where he plays. So you can literally use them as speakers. You can bounce the heads against the platters and turn them into speakers.
Sound is really complicated.
So like you can literally play music with them.
Yep.
So there's
You used to do that with the Commodore 64 floppy drive. We had a program that would play Sadie, Sadie, give me your answer, do.
Yeah, yeah,
That was
that's
really
right.
cool.
Yeah, it used to seek the heads in a certain point.
Yeah.
They cheat a bit these days. They do it all with Arduinos and stuff now. But it's the same. It's exactly the same principle.
Yep.
They just do it. Use the Arduino to seek the heads to where they want the heads to go to. So if you actually watch, you'll see the heads moving backwards and forwards now. But the difference is instead of the program on the disk telling it where to seek the heads, the Arduino is just programmed to seek the heads to a certain point.
Yep.
And the speed at which it seeks and then the speed at which it stops is what controls the sound waves that comes out of it. And if you've got a disc in, the disc out, it changes the sound as well. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
And people get banks and banks and banks of those, put them all together, hundreds of the damn things.
Oh yeah, there's the Floppytron, which I think is like it's 64 floppies. Is the Floppytron, but
Yep.
there's another one where they've got the Floppytron, but they've also got scanners. They've got
Printer.
printers, and they've got old hard drives, and they've got all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
Like
So you can't do
stepper
that with your
motors and-
SSD and your USB
Nah.
thumb drive, kids.
There's something just about mechanical vibration that you just don't get anymore.
My SD card doesn't make very much noise.
Yeah,
Just goes clunk, clunk, clunk.
that's it exactly.
One note. It sounds like a drum.
This is the Commodore 64 one we're talking about. Loading.
They have Sadie.
Don't know which one they're going to play. Oh, here we go. Sing Song Serenade. Yeah, take the disc out so you don't completely destroy it. It's a bit hard to hear with the background noise. So, you know,
That was great.
it's not a new thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, just make sure you pull the floppy drive out because it does bad things if you don't.
Yeah.
Nothing like the sound of the head dragging across the platter of the disc.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
dear.
then I had a 1541 too, but they were built differently, and so it hardly made any sound. Even if you put your ear right up to it, you couldn't hear it
That
because
was
it was so dampened.
They discovered rubber dampeners at that point. Yeah.
Oh, that's this week on Old Fart Geeks.
All right. So something a little more modern, and actually, I bought these 2 days ago.
Oh.
Now I've refused for the longest time to buy iPod, iPad, iBud things equivalents because they're just stupidly expensive. It's been a few $100s.
Yep.
Officeworks have these Qdo True wireless earbuds with charging case, $69.
Nice.
And the same thing, the earbuds, they've got the case there that you put them in, the case charges them 4 times. Yep. They're actually really comfy. The audio quality is, I'm not going to say it's fantastic, but it's certainly acceptable.
Yep.
The microphone quality is decent. I've got, at work, I can put the phone on the counter, I can walk down in the workshop, so I can at least get 10 or 12 metres away without affecting audio. They have about a 4-hour or so battery life.
Yep.
And the cool part about them is that you can either pair them as a stereo device or pair them as 2 independent mono devices to 2 separate devices.
Oh, nice.
So you can have one phone paired to one and one phone paired to another one, or one phone paired to one, a computer paired to another one. So you have...
And you can talk to 2 people at the same time.
Well, you have an earpiece and a microphone dedicated to 2 separate devices.
Yep.
So for work, I'm setting it up so that I'm starting to record videos for work, and I can now have 2 phones, uses them as cameras, with an earbud in each ear and 2 phones separately set up, and the recordings are going to those phones via the earpiece independently.
Ah.
So they're perfectly synced and everything like that. Or if I wanted to, I could have one going to my work computer and one to a phone, so I could have a backup audio going to the work computer.
Yep, yep.
So I really like the fact that at first I thought, this is annoying, you've got to pair them both. And then I thought, well, hang on, no, if you've got to pair them both, that means you can just pair one.
Yep.
And after figuring out how the instructions work, because that was painful, I managed to work out that, yeah, they do in fact support separate pairing of each device. So yeah, for that price,
Brilliant.
I have no complaints at all. $69 so far. As I've used them for the last 2 days, and there's an example down there. There's your Samsung Galaxies 150, Apple AirPods 400, JBL's 148, Skull Candies 118. So
69 beats all them out of the water.
yeah, and for that price, especially at work, given the environment I work in with battery acid and stuff like that, the battery acid is most likely going to corrode the terminals and charging port on all of them regardless anyway. So spend $69 and I can buy, well, what's the Apple one? 400. So I can buy 6 pair of these for the same price.
Yep.
So, no, if you're looking for cheap wireless earbuds, which I thought I would never say that, because it's not something I generally am looking for, but in this case, yeah, I at this stage, I recommend these things. As I said, the sound's perfectly acceptable. It's not fantastic. It doesn't have great fidelity, but it's perfectly acceptable.
Yeah.
The delay is very, very minimal, which is good because I've used some Bluetooth speakers and microphones before that have had horrible delay. But these things actually do a pretty good job of it. They come with 2 or 3 different sets sizes of earplugs. They got a 3-year warranty. I mean,
Yep.
you know. So yeah. So I they are a little fiddly to initially get them hooked up, but once you figure them out, they're not too bad. So
Awesome.
yeah. And so like the charging case, like they all do, they come with a separate charging case, but the charging case, charges them up 4 times. So
It
realistically,
said, only 1 hour to charge.
yeah, they charge it pretty quick. But that's the cool part, because you can actually pair them both individually to the same phone. So technically, if you only wanted to wear one, you could go for 8 hours in between charging them, because you'd only have to wear one at a time. But you'd indefinitely charge them, because you'd get 8 charge cycles if you charge them individually, because they'll charge a pair 4 times. So you could actually go an entire week if you're just using one at a time,
No problem.
without having to charge the base. So the only thing with that is you have to change between left and right ear, but
Doesn't matter.
that's actually the worst part about these. If you've got them in your hand, you've taken them out of the case, you've got them in your hand, you then spend the next 5 minutes trying to figure out which ear they're going, because they don't have left and right written on them. So
Time to get a silver pen.
it takes a bit to figure that out. Once you get that, they're good. So I just thought I'd mention that as a bit of a cheaper option, because I'm a cheap ass. So, but
Why not?
the thing is, it was going to cost like $85 to buy a Bluetooth adapter to turn a normal lapel mic into Bluetooth. Anyway.
Yeah.
So
Does it trick?
yeah, absolutely.
2 security researchers have published today details about a vulnerability in the Windows printing service that they say impacts all Windows versions going back to Windows NT4, released in 1996. The vulnerability, which they codenamed Print Daemon, is located in the Windows Print Spooler, the primary Windows component responsible for managing print operations. The service can send data to be printed to a USB or parallel port for physically connected printers, to a TCP port for printers residing on a local network or the internet, or to a local file, in the rare event the user wants to save a print job for later. In a report published, security researchers Alex Ionescu and Yarden Shafir said they found a bug in this old component that can be abused to hijack the print spooler internal mechanism. The bug can't be used to break into a Windows client remotely over the internet, so it's not something that could be exploited to hack Windows systems at random over the internet. Print Daemon is what researchers call a local privilege escalation vulnerability. This means that once an attacker have even the tiniest foothold inside an app or Windows machine, even with user mode privileges, the attacker can run something as simple as one unprivileged PowerShell command to gain administrator level privileges over the entire operating system. This is possible because of how the print spooler service was designed to work. Because this is a service meant to be available to any app that wants to print a file, it is available to all apps running on the system without restriction. The attacker can create a print job that prints to a file, for example, a local DLL file used by the OS or another app. The attacker can then initiate the print operation, crash the print spool service intentionally, then let the job resume. But this time, the printing operation runs with system privileges, allowing it to overwrite any files anywhere in the OS. The good news is that this has now been patched, hence Ionescu and Shafir's public disclosure. Fixes for Print Daemon have been released yesterday with the Microsoft May 2020 patch Tuesday.
So that only goes back, what did you say, 96?
Yeah.
So that's only, what's that, 15 years? 14 years?
Nobody thought of it before, and your XP and NT are not going to get patched, and probably not Windows 7 either these days.
Oh, anything pre to, well, even 7, even
8?
Yeah, even Windows 8, I think. I don't know if they still, it's 7 that gets stop support for, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yep.
But they did say they would still release major
0-day stuff, yeah.
vulnerability stuff. So the thing is, you think you got an NT4 server sitting there somewhere, though. Good luck getting a patch on that now.
Yeah, they would still exist. They probably run banks and stuff as usual.
I guarantee they still exist. The Queensland government's most likely using them to run Centrelink. But
That's where the census and everything runs, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the voting server.
Yeah.
Wow, it's hard to believe that they got away with that for so many years before.
Nobody thought to look at it or update it.
I guess so. It's not really a very heavily used service. Like the printer spool, in terms of a network, is, but in terms of outside of a localized network, it's not really something you
Wouldn't worry about.
very rarely would use. And if you did, it was generally through a third-party application anyway.
Hmm.
You know, it's usually if you're going to print something, you've either logged into the work computer to do something anyway, and you print it either at work or you print it at home from work.
Yeah.
You wouldn't generally log into a printer remotely to print specifically, from the server to a printer from a remote
No,
location.
the only problem is that every version of Windows uses the spooler for printing, so everything's got it and everything uses it.
Yeah, you don't even think about it, do you? So like, it really is. They haven't changed the method of printing in that long.
No. Just the same software. They just made a 64-bit version, recompiled it. There we go.
And realistically, all it does is it just changes the nuances that particular printer wants. It doesn't. I guess it was, if you think about it, it was a good way of doing it, because they just took every program effectively prints this data. It's going to print it like this. All we need to do is change a slight DPI, change a font, change a a small tweak.
Mostly it just, you hit print, it goes straight to the spooler, and then you can go on editing documents and doing anything else. And the spooler handles talking to the printer. Are you ready to print? Yeah. Got enough ink? Yeah. Got enough paper?
Exactly.
Yeah. You haven't finished yet? Yeah. Hang on, I'll wait. Okay, here's some more data. Stop.
Well, you've got 200 there was a thing where Windows did for a while, and I don't understand how they managed to do it. We had a commercial printer at work that had 512 meg of RAM, and somehow it couldn't print a PDF in one go.
Ah.
If you printed like a 2-page PDF, it would have to have like 5 minutes to think about it, then it would print one page, and then it would have to unload that, then spool the second page, have another 5 minutes to think about it. Printing. You could print massive photos, you could print whatever you wanted, never had this problem, but PDFs,
Didn't want to
didn't want to know
about
it. And you're watching the spooler, and it's saying, sent 256 meg of 2048, and you're like, it's a 1-page document. Why is it 2 gig?
PDF bloat.
So I guess spooler hasn't always been useful.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it. But no, I mean, it's good, because the other thing is, like, obviously in a commercial situation where you've got multiple people printing to one printer, you can have a queue, whether the server handles that or whether they get spooled locally. I guess depends on how you got it set up. But yeah, that's where it comes in particularly handy, where you've got 14 people trying to print to a dot matrix that prints like 1 page an hour.
Yeah.
Which does happen.
Does happen. Any more stories for you?
Our dot matrix used to print triplicate. Can't do that with a new printer.
Mm.
There's one thing I miss is the triplicate printing.
Yeah.
So a few stories, a couple of quick ones. I'm just going to play. I'll play. No, I'll wait till the end of the show. I'll do that. I'll talk about this one quickly. Now, their fundraisers, especially when they're live streaming, you can donate later as well once the show's over. But Josh Gad, who you probably know as Olaf from Frozen, he does other stuff as well, but that's mainly what he's known for recently. Last week got the cast of the Goonies together, and they did a Zoom hangout meeting thing, and that was really cool watching some of they not even had the cast, they had the directors, they had the producers, they had writers, they had all sorts of stuff in there. And then this week they've done Back to the Future cast.
Nice.
So they've had, everyone from Christopher Lloyd, Michael J. Fox. They've had Huey Lewis was on there. They've had Steven Spielberg. They've had who else do they have on? They had all sorts of cast members on and off. And yeah, they're really very, very clever, very well done. Not your standard, as much as he's fangirling over the whole thing, even he said that. But they're not your standard panel style interview because everybody gets involved with everybody else and everybody talks about different things that they wouldn't normally. Some of these people haven't seen each other. Like you wouldn't normally get Huey Lewis and Michael J. Fox in the same room.
No.
So when they
Not
talk,
anymore.
so when they talk to each other, they have
Not
interesting
since he told him
conversations.
to get off the stage because he was terrible
This
musician.
is too loud. But yeah, so it's a really good one. There's that, and I said the same thing. You did the cast of the Goonies last week. You can see. I'll find a screenshot. You can see there's all sorts of people. Where are we? On there, there's what was his name? Data. That was the main guy. Where is he? This guy over here, the one sitting in the chair. He was Chunk. So yeah, so they're just fantastic interviews to watch. So if you like those sort of things, go and check out Josh Gad. He's it's just amazing. He's got all these guys together, So it's definitely worth watching. They are long. They're half hour each or whatever. Plus there's a couple other videos with outtakes and behind the scenes and stuff as well. So you can quite easily kill a couple hours doing that. See, on that one they had Sean Austin, Josh Brolin, Jeff Cohen, Martha Plimpton, Kerry Green, Robert David, Joe, Chris Columbus, Richard Donner, Steven Spielberg, Cyndi Lauper. So
Wow.
and then they've got they also do the Power of Love, but it's from the I'll mute that. They do the Power of Love, but it's from the wrong button. What's the stupid? How do you work this stupid?
What happened to his computer?
So basically, Back to the Future's musical is about to start, but they've got all the cast. Obviously, the musical can't perform at the moment, so they got all the cast together to do their own what they would normally do during the thing. So the cast of the musical gets in there as well and does their stuff. So no, it's a good watch. It's a lot of fun, very entertaining, and as I said, it's all for charity. So if you do feel like it, you can actually go and donate. As to whether or not it allows you to donate is interesting. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. It's an American charity, and it seems like randomly one day you can donate and then randomly the next day you can't. So I'm not really sure what's happening there. But another quick one. I won't spend too much time on it, but just in case you weren't aware, Toll has been hacked again. Second major cyber attack this year. Revealing it's closed numerous international customers facing systems after being infected by a new form of ransomware. The company faced over a month of costly disruptions when the system was compromised by Russia-based hackers, of course, who unsuccessfully sought a hefty ransom to unlock Toll's systems. In a statement posted online, Toll, which is owned by Japan Post, said it took precautions in shutting down certain IT systems on Monday after detecting activity on its servers. Didn't elaborate on the identity of the hackers, yet mysteriously they know they're Russian hackers. They didn't pay any ransom, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, so it was the attack early this year, ran from January until March, where it could not tell customers, including Telstra, Optus and Officeworks, where their parcels were, as opposed to normally, where they can't tell you where they are anyway. So there's that. You had one on the new awesome-looking graphics that are coming out.
PlayStation 5 and Epic's Games announced its new Unreal Engine 5 today, and finally have an idea of what graphics will look like on next-generation hardware. The first gameplay footage from Microsoft's Xbox Series X was underwhelming, but the first run of games on new hardware typically is. The 9 minutes of footage from Epic, which is running a tech demo on PlayStation 5 hardware, offered our first real glimpse of what may be the future of video game visuals. The clip features a video game protagonist exploring a cave system, then sky surfing through a mountain pass as ruins crumble around her. Epic designed it to showcase two new features of Unreal Engine 5, Nanite and Lumen. Epic Games says that Nanite allows game designers to render an incredible amount of polygons on screen, leading to photorealistic environments. Lumen is a new lighting engine that renders light and fills space similarly to NVIDIA's RTX technology. In the demo, the two new technologies add up to a beautiful scene with complicated textures, animation, and lighting. Epic Games is selling these new technologies and Unreal Engine 5 in general as tools developers can use to save time in the development process. According to Epic Games, Unreal Engine 5 comes with a suite of tools that allow developers to rely less on handcrafting environments and animations. The demo is gorgeous, but it doesn't show off the developer's version of the software. It's hard to know what the software will look like for its target audience, people making video games.
Yeah, it's pretty sexy. It's, I guess, what you would consider CGI in a lot of aspects. If CGI was a game.
Well, they're using film quality renderers instead of computer game quality renderers, so it needs to be higher definition for film, so they're using that in this.
I mean, I know they always say that when consoles come out, they're unrivaled by PC, but I think because there's been such a lag time between the last lot of consoles and the new ones that are coming out, I really don't think that will be the case. Because looking at this, like, there are some games out now that look like this, and there's some VR games. There's actually a Tomb Raider VR demo if you've got the cardboard. And it looks every bit like this.
Right.
Probably not quite as you don't see the characters model in it, but the background looks every bit like this. Like, it renders super high detail, and being VR, it adds an extra layer of realization to it. But it's, I think where the thing's coming is whether this is going to be the thing. Is this going to be pre-rendered in terms of, is it effectively just playing a video in the background while the character's walking through it and you're controlling the character?
It's supposed to be real-time gaming.
So like if you threw a rock at that wall of rocks and it created a rubble landslide, that would be rendering on the fly.
Yeah.
But most of the stuff we're seeing here is predetermined, so it's effectively pre-rendered almost to the point.
I see what you mean, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's not, it might be physically rendering it on the fly, but it's treating it almost like a movie that it's playing. It doesn't have to think about the rendering process. This is where a lot of this technology falls flat on its face. It can, especially the smoothness can suffer. Like if it's doing this scene where everything's pre-rendered like this, okay, it's perfectly fine. But if you create an avalanche or something like that happens and all these rocks start falling down that aren't part of the pre-rendering, you start to see frame rate drop and stuff like that because it can't show the existing rendering plus update all the models in real time. So it's going to be really interesting to see the hardware required. If this is true on the fly rendering, it's going to be really interesting to see the hardware required. That's much harder to say than it should be.
I like how the cockroaches in this all scatter in a wave away from the light.
See, there's an example though. Is it scattering because of the light, or is it scattering because they're pre-rendered to do that?
Yeah.
Now, we don't know with this tech demo if you're in control of that or whether it's pre-done.
That's the thing with tech demos always, isn't it?
That's right. But, as I said, if that's actually really happening and you're shining a torch at them and they move in different directions depending on where you shine the torch, and it can do that on the fly without affecting anything, absolutely, that's perfect. That's what they're going for.
They said they imported this statue from ZBrush with billions of triangles on it. And then you go into this next room and there's another 500 of those same statues with the same level of detail.
Well, and this is the thing though. They're pre-rendered, so they're not really treating them, whilst they're stationary there, they're effectively just a sprite. they're a sprite until something happens.
Yeah.
You know, if one of them falls over, then that becomes a rendering challenge.
Yeah.
So this is the thing. Okay, it's all fine and dandy to have 1 billion polygons on the screen, but if it's just playing it like a movie, it's nothing. If it's specifically rendering those billion polygons because now that there's a earthquake and everything's falling over and shattering and carrying on, then yeah, okay, that's great, you know. So time will tell.
It's just a very nice statue sitting in the corner there.
Yeah, you know, time will tell. You know, and it's going to be interesting. And a lot of these tech demos aren't done on the hardware of the system. I remember when the PlayStation 2 came out, and they were showing Daytona as their feature game on the PlayStation 2. The tech demo that you saw on all the PlayStation DVDs you got as the things, and all the things you saw in the Harvey Norman and whatever, they weren't the PlayStation 2 render of Daytona. They were the arcade render of Daytona.
Ah, right.
You know, when it actually came to the PlayStation 2, yeah, it was great. It was still ahead of its time, and the at the time the textures and the resolution was amazing. But when you had 8 cars all controlled by AI, and you're trying to have a race, especially when you had a 2-person race where you had the computer had to render 2 separate screens, and because you use that iLink cable thing, so you know you're splitting your
suddenly screens.
You know,
slows down.
Yeah, you're dropping down. I mean, it was only 25 frames a second anyway, but you're dropping visibly below 20, 15, 12 frames a second.
Yep.
And look nothing like the tech demo. So, you know, tech demos are great, but I'm always a little skeptical until I see that in the wild. Tech demo is just that. It's just a tech demo.
Probably be a little while before we see that.
You know, like the whole thing with this actually, it reminds me of the streaming, the Steam, where they were going to do the direct streaming from Steam servers.
Yeah,
you can do it to this day. I can, but it's still not practical. It's still
Google Stadia is that, isn't it?
You know, I think so.
Same thing.
But it relies on so many external features to behave.
Yeah.
You know, it's never as it might work fine. It might be an amazing piece of technology, but it's never going to be as good as the tech demo you see, where they've got the server sitting next to the box in the room beside it. You know, like it's it's just one of those things. It just reminded me that a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago picked up a console. I'd only ever seen one arcade version of this, and it was in a little general store up at Harvey Bay where we stayed. We were holidaying at Harvey Bay when I must have been 13, 14. And this little fish and chip shop on the corner had a Nintendo arcade game.
Ah.
And you could go in, you'd put your $2 in, and $2 bought you 10 minutes, and you could physically switch between games. There was Mario Brothers, there was Zelda, the motorbike one, and I can't remember what the other ones were. But you could literally switch between those different games. You had 10 minutes to do whatever you wanted to do.
Sweet.
And the thing was, though, every time you switched, it physically, and I've only just figured out how it did it, but it used to take a while to switch the game. So you might have 10 minutes, but if you switch after you put your coin in, you lose a minute switching games.
Oh, right.
And I only just recently figured out, a friend of mine found one. They were a commercially produced unit, but they weren't very common from what we can tell. It literally had 5 Nintendos in the bottom of the console.
Wow.
And it had a joystick and a video splitter between all of these consoles. And when you physically turned the knob that switched the game, you physically switched the splitters and the power source to that Nintendo. So when you switched it, it would turn that machine on and turn the other ones off, and it would power it up, and that's what the delay was. Yeah, it literally had 5 Nintendo consoles, and each one with a game inside. And by doing that, they never had cartridge reliability issues because the cartridge never left the console. But it was funny, like they've taken in this machine, like you can see the base plate with the circuit board and the console still sitting there, but they've just taken the top shell off the consoles. So there's 5 Nintendos in there with no top shells on them, but other than that, they're complete. And each one's got the player 1 and player 2 plugged in, all going into a switch box, all the video outs are going into a switch box. And and it goes to a timer. It's physically a mechanical timer. You know the old you used to plug them into a PowerPoint and you could tell you time on, time off.
Yeah.
It's one of those. That's literally all it was. And except it had minute increments on it instead of hour increments. You could go from 1 minute to like half an hour on this timer.
Yeah.
And when you switched the game, it would turn that console off and turn that console on, and the timer would keep going. So you had to wait for that console to boot up before you could play it. And he tracked one of those down. It was an amazing bit of kit for the time, I tell you.
Yeah.
So
Sure sounds like it.
But I mean, they made hundreds of bucks out of me. I remember playing that thing, feeding it $2 coins for hours at a time. It was great. So I just want to do just for people to hang around if you really want to. I'm going to, before I stop the recording and stop the stream at the end of the show, I'm going to play just a quick little video that some people might get a kick out of. So I'll wait till the end of the show for that one after the credits. So hang around and don't be shy. And I have to say too, we've had a few decent the last few weeks had some nice comments and some nice views and likes on our videos, which is really helping. Our channel's starting to get a bit better known.
Thanks, everybody.
So thanks for that. It's also helping. And I'm looking at setting up a Patreon for people who want to give us a couple of bucks here or there just to help us with equipment costs and hardware costs and internet costs and stuff like that. So look out over the next couple of weeks for links to Patreon starting up. So, yes.
Yeah, and thanks for listening to the Aussie Tech Heads show. Broadcast weekly. We can be found at facebook.com/Aussie Tech Heads, twitter.com/Aussie Tech Heads, and youtube.com/Aussie Tech Heads. Email us Glenn, Wheel and Warlock at aussietechheads.com.au. You can hear Aussie Tech Heads on aussietechradio.com, 24/7 back-to-back play of some of the best tech-related shows from around Australia and New Zealand. New shows added each Friday. See you guys.
See ya, and don't forget to hang around for after the show. And now for something completely different.
Scott, you just don't get it, do you? You don't.
5 million, but we've been the COVID safe app. I said,
Knock, knock.
who?
Let me tell you a little story about a man named Even before you start, that was a preemptive shh. Just know I have a whole bag of shh with your name on it.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. See you later.